Now, I'm sure you'll agree there are some cars that just have a special place in your heart. And at this point, I have to admit, this car has quite a special place in mine. It's celebrating its 20th birthday. It may not be fast and furious, but... oh yes, it's a lot of fun. And it's considered to be something of a design icon. It is, of course, the Audi TT Coupe. So why do I love it? Well, I can vividly remember seeing it at the very first Frankfurt Motor Show that I ever went to, when it was just a concept car. It finally became a production car in 1998, and there was nothing else quite like it. And where Audi led, others followed, although not quite as successfully. Now, to celebrate its 20th birthday, it's had the automotive equivalent of a nip and tuck. But before I tell you all about that, do make sure you subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click on the bell icon so you know when the latest video from Batch and I has landed. The Audi TT Coupe became an iconic car and remains one of the most popular coupes in the UK. We buy more TTs here than anywhere else in the world. So what's new about it for 2019? Well, it's mainly with the engines, and I'll come to that in a minute. I mean, there are a few design tweaks, but you'd be hard-pressed to see them. There's a new grille, you've got more choices when it comes to wheel and colour options, but really it's the same car. And as far as I'm concerned, that is not a bad thing. This has always been a great-looking car. I don't like it quite as much as I did the original version, but I still think it looks good. I like to think of it as an R8 Mini-Me. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all that, so what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. But what's always made the TT such a success is that the great looks are matched by equally great driving ability. Look, it's not going to set your world on fire, but depending on what engine you go for, it packs quite a punch. You have Audi's reliably sharp steering and composed, slightly dull road holding, but I'm not going to complain too much about this car. It is a fun car, and getting behind the wheel of it always has and still does make me smile. I feel happy driving this car. So let's talk engine, shall we? And perhaps rather unsurprisingly, the diesel has gone from the range. There's now a choice of 4 petrol engines. Oh my goodness me, and this is where it gets very confusing because they all come with Audi's new and incredibly complex badging system. Let's cue the voiceover for this bit. It's far too much for me to remember. So let's begin. There's a trio of 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engines, and as always, Audi's engineers have squeezed every last drop of power out of that engine. The entry-level front-wheel drive 197 horsepower version, which is badged 40 TFSI, is more potent than the entry-level 1.8 litre it replaces. Next step up is a 242 horsepower version, badged 45 TFSI, which has the option of front or all-wheel drive, while the 302 horsepower TTS comes with quattro all-wheel drive only. And at the top of the range sits a 2.5 litre 5-cylinder TTRS with close to 400 horsepower. It tops out at 155 and comes with a rather nice soundtrack from its exhaust. Now, the front-wheel drive TTs are all available with a 6-speed manual, while the quattro all-wheel drives get a new 7-speed dual-clutch auto box. Phew, have you got all that? Because it still confuses me. Anyway, this one is the impressive 45 TFSI Quattro S-Line S-Tronic. Ooh, names. They're really not Audi's strong point, are they? But luckily, engines are, most definitely. Flick this one into dynamic mode, which you do just down there with the drive select button, and oh yes, it suddenly becomes a lot more fun. That 2-litre turbocharged engine has got fantastic mid-range punch, and just it feels really grippy and sticky into the corners. It handles really nicely. Push hard with your right foot and you'll find it does run out of a bit of steam at the top end. But you know, with a car like this, I want it to have plenty of power in the mid-range, and this really delivers that. So what about the sound? Well, it sounds pretty good. It's reasonably raucous, if a little bit artificial. But what I do really like is the new automatic gearbox, which feels snappy and slick. Going into the corners, the steering is nice and sharp. It's probably a little bit too light. I personally don't mind lighter steering, but I know some of you aren't fans, and if that's you, you may find that you don't get enough feedback. But personally, I think if you add that nice sharp steering to the excellent grip that you get going into corners that I've already mentioned, of course, something that you get from anything with the Quattro badge. And yeah, I think it's fair to say that I've enjoyed every corner on the Carbuyer track today. Now, this updated model isn't dramatically different on the outside, and of course it isn't in here either. It's got that simple pared back look that I really like about this interior. Batch and I were talking about it and we're both in complete agreement. It is the nicest interior on any car that Audi make. The quality of the materials is beautiful. I love the dials, I love all the steel, and I do love a nice Audi steering wheel. This one is particularly nice with its, you know, lovely flat bottom. It just makes you feel like you want to get into the car and drive. I said in 2014 about this interior that it sets the standard for other cars, and I stand by that today. This is a really nice place to be. Virtual cockpit is standard across the range, and the digital display is impressive in both its quality and also just how easy it is to use. A phenomenal amount of thought has gone into the little details that really lift this interior to another level. Open a little compartment which houses the USB ports, and a gentle light comes on, while the air conditioning controls are positioned on cockpit-style air vents. Storage is compact, as are the back seats. They're definitely best left for the little ones. But that's only what you'd expect in a coupe like this. And the boot space, well, it isn't actually that bad. I've had scooters and a small stroller in there without any problems. And if you do need more space, then the rear seats are easy to fold down. One thing I don't find quite so impressive are, of course, these. The fake vents. Audi, why do you do this to us? It's so disappointing. As is the fact that it only comes in red, black or white as standard. Although I guess it's relatively generous of them when you consider that when it comes to the RS4, Audi charged for every other colour apart from grey. Yep, 20 years later, the TT Coupe still makes my heart flutter. And when it comes to Batch, the Alpine A110 does exactly the same for him. So why not watch his video here on the YouTube channel? Don't forget to subscribe and click on the little bell icon so you know when our latest video has landed.